Have you ever craved the Ticket to Ride experience but didn't really want to play for the full 45, 50, 60 minutes? If so, Ticket to Ride London is the game for you. The board is smaller than USA or Europe and it caters for 2 to 4 players, but has that same set collecting tension of the original, which makes sense as Alan R. Moore, the original designer, released this edition in 2019. It's still a race to gather cards and claim routes before your opponent, but now in a 15 to 20 minute package. Joining me tonight is my friend Leo, who in his early 30s went back to uni for a career change. Last year, he began his new career as a high school teacher during the pandemic. Whoa. Leo, welcome.
Hi Liam, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. So we're playing Ticket to Ride London. You've played Ticket to Ride before?
I have.
Excellent. We're starting off with a couple more cards just to kick us off before we start. So why teaching?
I originally worked claiming Trafalgar Square to Covent Garden. Yeah, I don't know London too well. I originally worked at universities for the better part of a decade. I'm
going to claim this one.
Jeez,
to try and cut you off.
Is it cutting me off though?
Well, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what's on your card. So yeah, sorry, you were originally in universities?
I was in universities for the better part of a decade, 2 in New South Wales where I lived in Sydney and then 2 here in Victoria. I'm going to just take 2 from the top here. Yep. And you'll go. And then I found that my most rewarding experiences working at the university were where I was engaging with students and getting to assist them. And in particular, I had one role where I would work with students from schools that were called low SES schools, so lower socioeconomic background, and those schools, the students from those schools weren't as often going to universities, and my role was to bring those students into the university and encourage them to apply for different pathways in the health sphere. So I worked in nursing, medicine, dentistry, physio, etc. I found that really, really rewarding working with these young people and trying to encourage them to take up these pathways. And the conclusion that I came to was that I wasn't meant to work in an office type role. I was better suited in a classroom sort of environment, and so that's why I chose to change careers and become a teacher.
So you're up. So did you find that the... sorry, go.
I'll claim Covent Garden as well.
Well, no, because that's the one that can only be...
It can only be claimed once.
Yeah, at 2 players.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
So in 2-player games, once one route of a double route is claimed, the other cannot be claimed by the other player. So you have to sort of take the long way around.
Well, I'm not going to take the long way around. I'm instead just going to use a wild card there, and I'm going to claim Covent Garden to...
And so yes, so that's now both of those off. So I guess once you sort of had an idea that what you were doing in your, some of your current role you were finding very rewarding, and you wanted to sort of continue down that path. How long between sort of that realization and being like, okay, I'm enrolled in university, and I'm changing my life by going back to university?
It was a big decision actually. So I've been with my now wife for the better part of 10 years. We're coming up on 10 years now, and I'm actually going to take 2 from the top as well. And she was already enrolled in university when we were discussing me doing that. So for both of us to go back to university at the same time was something hard to do, but so I had to wait for her to finish university so that we could still maintain an income and save towards the normal stuff of buying a house, etc. I'm going to take 2 off the top again. Your turn. Ultimately, it's a difficult decision to go through a career change like this, and you've done the same, so you'd understand. It just came down to a matter of what was most important to me, and the thing that was most important to me was enjoying the work that I did and feeling like I was contributing something important. I think teaching is very important.
What about this year? Because it's been back into classrooms this year, right?
Yeah, so it has actually been quite interesting. I teach mostly at a senior campus, so I teach exclusively at a senior campus at the moment. Years 10 and 11 are my years that I teach. And it has been a interesting process of acclimating to a classroom environment again for a lot of the students. You have to keep in mind that a lot of these students have not been in a consistent classroom environment for over 2 years. So the longest period of time that they had spent in a classroom was 6 weeks until first term this year since 2019.
So they've lost the routine and lost some of their sort of...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so the requirement of someone to continue to work in a academic environment like that over a sustained period of time is hard. And it's a skill that you don't just learn or gain, it's something you can also lose. And so these students have found themselves in a position where it's harder for them to regain those skills again. And it is a process.
Well, yeah, I know because I decided to do nursing, and then week 3 of the course, at the end of week 3, they go, oh, yep, lockdowns are coming, it's all online now. There'll be prac classes at the end of semester at some stage, we'll figure it out. And so it was a very hard environment to learn, but then there was also, you get into bad habits. I would have, because I'm not a morning person, I would often have a 10 a.m. or a 12 p.m. class, my first class of the day, and I'd have breakfast while on the Zoom call. Really learning those vital skills while having breakfast. We were talking a little bit off camera before about you had a plan to involve games in your classroom, more as a sort of celebration at the end of the term. But have you ever thought, or have you ever heard of people using games as sort of educational tools?
Yeah, definitely. Gamification was sort of a buzzword in education for a little while. It's not so much anymore. But it is certainly something that's been used quite a bit. I have seen a number of math-based sort of game. I'm going to spin it again. So there's a number of sort of online learning module-based websites that teachers or schools subscribe to and let the students use, so that they can track students' learning, but the students also gain something from it that sort of resembles a game process, in so much as there is badges that they earn, there are different things that they can accomplish along the way that make it resemble a game. There are also a lot of things that we do in the classroom generally in the form of brain breaks, which are a commonly used strategy by a lot of teachers, sort of incorporating a little 5-minute break into your lessons. And we have long lessons at our school. We have 75-minute lessons. So having a 5-minute break there in the lesson is good to help kids refocus and also take a little break from the arduous academic stuff.
For my last turn, I'm going to get 2 pink cars, Rocket Man, so Elton John. I'm going to claim these 2 here. And then I guess we figure out how scoring went. Got 1 from that as well for connecting those 2.
Yeah.
So it's closer.
I would have had another 4. I would have had another 8 points. I would have been.
Yeah.
Thanks for the game.
Thanks for playing. Thanks for telling us a little bit about what it's like to be a teacher in this sort of modern COVID/post-COVID, but not really age that we now live in.
It's a weird one.
Yeah.